That's what you guys tell yourself. So, yeah, good things happen. Very nice to meet you. Testing, testing. Can we have everybody take your seats? Good evening, everyone. This is a joy to see you all here. My name's Terry Lockemeyer. I'm the mayor of the city of Buffalo. And before we get started, I want to do a special thanks to somebody who did a lot of work in the beginning. I mean, literally blood, sweat, and tears, family, kind of just hours that were relentless. And if I could bring Danny Palmer up to the stage, I would really appreciate it. Just so you guys know, Danny Palmer was the designer and the creator of our Buffalo Strong website. She kept up all of the fundraising, all of the memo lines of when someone wanted to add something. She kept all of the paper. Everything was done by her, and now we are a full-fledged nonprofit, which will help us be able to continue these efforts for years to come, hopefully. So Danny, are you out there? We would love to present you with these beautiful flowers. She didn't even hear one word I said. Danny, give her a round of applause. Sweetest person in the world, you guys. Danny, if you want to say a few words, I certainly would be, oh, no? Well, again, let's give her a round of applause. Thank you, Danny. All right, again, thank you everyone for coming, and I have to use my glasses because they want me to be short and sweet, and you know me, I'm not. I'm short, but maybe not this way. All right, so again, welcome everyone. This day is meant to be one of resilience. 1 year ago, we shared a tragedy, but the real story is how the community came together, even in a pandemic, to raise up those who were affected and to band together stronger than ever. Recognize the utter strength and courage of the individuals present that day. Not only did they survive, they have had the courage to heal, to move forward, and to not let such a selfless, violent act stop them from serving and healing our community. A special thanks to our law enforcement. I see that we have our sheriff here and our chief of police and some of our first responders. They showed up in an incredible way and really took care of all of us. So today, February 9th, is the first official Buffalo Strong Day. We hope as many years that we have in the future will progress and be even better. This becomes a day to come together in solidarity as the best small town in the state. And as Buffalo Strong moves forward, we're switching focus to support the mental health and wellness of our community and the individuals in it. And I'm going to read you a proclamation because when we want to really make a difference, we do a proclamation in this city. So, a day for Buffalo, Buffalo Strong Day. Whereas on February 9th, 2021, the city of Buffalo was shaken by gun violence when Buffalo Allina Clinic was targeted by a one-armed individual, leaving 5 victims injured and 1 later died. And whereas the impact rippled through the entire Buffalo community, falling heavy on all of the staff, the medical professionals that worked at the Allina Clinic, and their co-workers across the Allina medical system and medical community. The Buffalo Police Department, Wright County Sheriff's Office, and additional law enforcement agencies who provided assistance at the scene. The family and friends and neighbors of the 5 victims, the school district, students and their families, and all the members of our City of Buffalo family. And whereas the City of Buffalo will remain Buffalo Strong. The event on February 9th, 2021 will not break the community apart, nor will it take away healthcare resources for our community. And whereas Buffalo Strong Day, February 9th, 2022, will be recognized through several community events, the community is committed to forever carry on the message of continued support for one another and to connect through caring, and community. And whereas Buffalo Strong is lived by our Buffalo community because Buffalo connects to our neighbors and our community members, especially those who are in need or be suffering from mental health issues, to check in and understand their needs. Buffalo cares, as evidenced by the outpouring of support of time, talent, and treasure by community members in the wake of the February 9th. And Buffalo continues on with the work of strengthening our community and making sure all residents have the resources they need to be healthy and successful. Now, therefore, I, Terry Lockemeyer, the mayor of the city of Buffalo, do hereby proclaim that February 9th, 2022 shall be observed as Buffalo Strong Day. There's just a few sponsors. I'm telling you, people came out of the woodwork for sponsoring this, and I'm so thankful. Our platinum sponsor is Buffalo National Bank. Our gold sponsor is Culver's, Buffalo Hospital Foundation, Randy Haskins, Buffalo Youth Hockey Association. Our silver sponsors are Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota, Ryan Auto Mall, Pfeiffer Property Management, Diversified Property Services, Traffic Marking, and Worldtronics. Our bronze sponsor, CMMHC, Buffalo Chiropractic, Buffalo Rotary, Newport Healthcare, and Dojo Karate. And now it is my pleasure and honor to introduce the honorary mayor of Buffalo, Randy Haskins, who's going to introduce our speaker. Randy, are you here?
Thank you, Terry. Well, riding around with Clint today, I could tell he was feeling a little bit of anxiety. His depression was kicking in because he felt so all alone. So I went out and bought myself a cowboy hat. It's not the $200 like you had, but it. And the other, you see the jersey that I'm wearing today? Where's Gene at? Gene Pavlich. This is how I got to know Clint and Joni. Thank you for what you did. Gene Pavlich is the sister of Mark Pavlich, 1980 U.S. hockey Olympic player. Made an unbelievable pass at the end for the final score to beat the Russians. And without her doing her work with the ranch and having a function up in Hermantown, good friend of mine, Mr. Guy LeBlanc, put it on, who knew Mark Pavlich well, did an awesome job. But Guy told me, Randy, you got to come up here on Sunday. Sunday, there's a guy that's going to talk. He said, you need to hear it. So I thought, well, for Guy, I'll do it. We went up there on Sunday, and I thought, I don't know what I'm getting into. But we got out of there. We got in there, and this guy honestly knocked it out of the ballpark. He meant so much to me, his talk, and I was so easy to relate to many of the things that he talked about through personal experiences that I have had. I lost a very good friend of mine to suicide, and I worked with him for about three months. And he said to me a lot of the things that I heard Clint say to Joni. I can't live with these voices in my head. I can't live with these voices in my head. And that's exactly what my friend told me. And at that point, I knew that I had to get this guy to Buffalo somehow with everything that we had gone through. So I went to my employer, Old National Bank, not Buffalo National Bank. You didn't say Buffalo National Bank, did you? Huh? I thought I heard Buffalo National, but I was way back there. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Yes. Straight out of Alberta, Canada. Good friend of mine, Mr. Clint Malarchek, and his wife, Joni. Clint was a 14-year NHL goalie. And his talks that he has have just been unbelievable. When I came home from that deal, I looked up everything that you could find on the internet. I know Clint Malarchek's record, criminal record. I got it all on him. But no, my wife said, you know, I really think you got kind of a man crush on that guy. But I did, and I've talked to a lot of people. Terry, I think you said it too. Once you start looking that stuff up, you just keep looking because it's so interesting and it's so meaningful in our world today. But with that, Clint and Joni Malarchek.
Love you, brother. Tiny. Well, thank you, Randy, and thank you for bringing us here. He's been the main cog in getting us here for this event. And, you know, wow, you know, I'm sure this is kind of a sad day for a lot here, 1 year anniversary, but are we Buffalo strong? Yeah, we're talking about perseverance, resilience, everything this community has gone through and echoed. Can you hear me? Is that better? It's very, very endearing for me to come here for a day and a half already and meet so many people and be a part of the Buffalo Strong and what they went through. What you're going to hear from Joni and I is our story. It's a story, it's our story. And it has a lot to do with perseverance, resilience, and mental illness. That's me. I'm the dude. I went through it all. And where's Jeannie? I love you, Jean. Jean, there she is. What we are trying to do is get rid of the stigma, help people. And with our place, the ranch, Teammates for Life, is what we're all about, trying to help hockey players, military veterans, anybody. We'll never turn our doors on anybody. But it's a labor of love, and we're doing it, and Jean's a big, big part of something that I'll probably talk about a little bit later. You know, my story starts when I was a kid, young hockey player, right? I'm going to talk to this group quite a bit because our high school hockey team. And
you can't play favorites.
Just watch.
Yeah, we got the figure skaters over here.
Oh, they got figure skaters here?
Yeah.
All right, do we have security? How'd they get in? They're like barrel racers in rodeo, you know?
We love it.
Yeah. So, anyways, as a kid, hockey was everything. I loved the game. I dealt with a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. I had an abusive, alcoholic father, which doesn't, you know, in today we all come from, not we all, but a lot of us come from different dynamics as youth. And it affects us for the rest of our life. Well, that affected me pretty bad. And was I mentally ill at that time, or was I just a product of an alcoholic, abusive father? I don't know, but hockey was everything. I had anxiety. I had this first beginnings of obsessive compulsive disorder. So I guess the question I would ask myself, what caused it? My father? Or was I born with it? Was it a chemical imbalance at that time? Later on, I got more education on it, so I know what it was. But that was my dad. And you're probably going, wow, he played without a mask. And then you look at me and go, wow, he did too. But Dad was great. And I don't want to say, but he was an alcoholic. And that's a progressive disease that got worse and worse. And the older I got, the more abuse I got. To the point where if I had a good game, I was a good kid. If I had a bad game, I was a bad kid. That's very sick thinking. We cannot hang our hats on how we played. We are people. But I didn't have that. I didn't have that guidance. So that's how I grew up. And it's very sick thinking. But I grew up in those outdoor rinks. You guys skate in the outdoors? You better. 'Cause that's where you get your roots. That's where you get your love. That's where you get your character. That's where you get your passion. But that was my freedom. With all the things I was dealing with as a youth, the only time I felt safe and free was on those outdoor rinks. Man, I spent hours and hours and hours. I used to walk home. You already saw that. You're laughing already. And I pulled my toboggan. Here I had freedom on the outdoor ice, skating around, playing goal, pissing my pants because I didn't want to go in the locker room to do it. And it's an outdoor rink, so I just pee in my gear. And there's a yellow stain. Everybody knew that was Clint Larchuk's crease. And I'm not lying. My brother used to say, Clint, just go in and pee. No, I don't want to. I'm out here. Anyways, yeah, so my freedom, and I think about this story in retrospect. I'd walk home pulling my toboggan with my goalie gear. I had to go across this great big snowfield, uphill both ways. And the closer I got to home, the more my anxiety would rise. Well, why? I didn't know what I was going home to. What dad would I be coming home to, right? And I know a lot of people can relate to this. So anyways, I also grew up in the Canadian daycare system. You gotta love it. Pretty cute. So, I give you a little brief outline of what I grew up with, my identity, how insecure I grew up because of that, how I played, good kid, how I played, bad kid. Joni, on the other hand, oh my God, I love this family.
He laughs that I grew up like Beaver Cleaver or the Brady Bunch. And I think I did. You know, we've looked at photo albums together. And my photo albums are pictures of ski trips. There are pictures of birthday parties, pin the town the donkey, all kinds of things like that. When I meet him and we go to his house, there's a picture of us skiing. And we did family trips like that. And I go to his house and I ask to see his family albums, and it's newspaper clippings of all his hockey stuff. And it's just all the, winnings and all this, and who he got drafted by and everything. And I thought, well, where are your family pictures? And so I think that was a big telltale on how different our families were. I grew up in a military family, so we were moving around a lot. We had very, very close-knit family. Then when I moved away from home, my other family is here, Shelly and Chris and Sue. They were close too, and I knew whatever happened in my life that I could always go home. My dad was the one that was always there saying, you can always come back, I'll come get you. Shelly always told me, you can always move back here if you move away. So I think I always had that safety net. So my self-worth was based on just being a good person. My dad, loved me no matter how I did. If I fell apart figure skating in a competition, he'd be the first one there by the ice saying, great job, you're the best looking out there, let's go eat. Whereas Clint grew up, he's a good guy if he played a good game, and he was a bad guy if he played a bad game.
Yeah. And Shelly, don't do this often, but it's very important because I've heard about Shelly and Shelly and Shelly. So this talk is dedicated to you. Her mom, her second mom. So anyways, back, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I used to wash my hands. What do you think of OCD? Contamination, showering, light switches, counting and everything. I went through all that. But I was very fortunate I got my OCD on my hockey. I went through all the stages, now it's hockey. And so I worked so hard because I did not believe I had talent, I did not believe I had skill. So the OCD was kind of a blessing because I did things repetitiously all the time. And finally to make it to the NHL, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. I got the world by the tail, yet I'm so unhappy because I'm suffering with anxiety and depression and OCD. And I would pray to God, like, why? I'm here, why am I not happy? You worked so hard, Clint. But anyways, there's a lot of good stories when you make it to the NHL. And I remember as a rookie, you get kind of abused as a rookie, or we did back then. And, just menial stuff, like do this, do that, rookie, you're a rookie, you're a rookie. And that's part of the game. And I remember we get on these airplanes, and Dale Hunter, I don't know how many people remember that crazy guy. but a competitor, hard working, you know. Anyways, Dale and I were roommates. We did everything together. We were roommates, cellmates. Yeah, we got in a little bit of trouble. It was all harmless. But I remember Dale, you know, I looked up to him. He was only 1 year older than me, or advanced, getting drafted and everything. And he'd say, we'd get in an airplane, you know, Dale would kick off his shoes, so I wore cowboy boots. I better kick off my boots, and then Dale would grab my boot on the airplane and go, spit in my boot. I'm like, oh man, Dale, what is that? You shut up, rookie, get me a drink. So I go up to the flight attendant. Dale wants a Diet Coke. So I'd give Dale his Diet Coke, and he'd be sipping it. And I said, Dale, you know what? This is really not right. You know, you spitting in my boot, and he's drinking it, and me pissing in your Coke. I should have said peeing. Fact is, defining moment in Clint Larchuk's life. Boy, it was a good ride because I became a hero. But I also went down a big rabbit hole. So if you don't like blood, or you know, don't watch this video, or if you don't, you know, like blood, don't go hunting in Minnesota. Because it's a little graphic, but this changed my life, and it is kind of a defining for Clint Larchuk. Why isn't that playing?
You have to click it again.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Watch Malarchuk. Oh, God. Oh, please get over there, please. Oh, my God.
I lost a third of my blood in that game. I prepared for death. You cut a main artery or vein, and you pretty much got a couple minutes, right? Yeah. There's a lot of factors that allowed me to live. Number one, the Zamboni or our locker room entrance was right behind the net. Number two, we had immediate medical assistance from doctors, our team doctor. Number three, our team trainer was a medic in Vietnam. So he's got to come out in the ice, grab my vein, pinch it off in front of 2,000 people at the game and a TV audience. My mother was watching the game on TV, and I thought, everybody thinks Clint was such a character, you know, good. No, I got up to the ice, not because I was tough and skated off. I got up because my mom was watching. I didn't want her to see her son die on TV. Yeah, I wasn't that tough. I just thought, Mom can't see this. So preparing for death, that kind of trauma, which we didn't know much about trauma back then, set me up for a life of hurt. I had PTSD, undiagnosed of course, because my counseling at that time was pretty much standing in front of the net in my street clothes, and with our trainer, and he's going, yeah, this is where it happened. I go, yeah. He said, you good? Yeah, I'm good. Boom. That was my counseling. Okay, none was offered to me, and I didn't think of it back then either, 1989. And so I prepared for death. That was the main thing. I obviously survived that deal, and but trauma, and this is what I really want to hit home with Buffalo is trauma, because we've all been traumatized from a year ago, and we will touch on that. Trauma made all my predisposed issues with mental illness, anxiety, depression, OCD, being the big ones, explode. I could not function. I was having nightmares, flashbacks. My OCD was so hard I could barely leave the house. I would wake straight up in bed if I slept and just grab my neck. I was like Bradley Cooper in a movie. We're great actors, and I'd sit up and, you know, but I'm way better looking than him. But you get the picture. It was traumatic. So I'm reliving this, and it came to a point where I wasn't sleeping at all on purpose because I didn't want to go back into that trauma dream. And my play was not good. I was not good. But I'm dealing with all these mental health issues. And I'm doing it in silence. I'm not telling anybody. 10 days of no sleep, Well, I'd sit in a chair and try to sleep, but I didn't want to go into a REM sleep and have that nightmare. So after, I don't know, 10 days, we had a Super Bowl party at Pat LaFontaine's house, a Hall of Fame player, and I hadn't slept, and I'm sleep deprived, and I'm not telling anybody. And I go back, I had a beer, stayed at the party for half an hour, go back home, and basically read a prescription that said, do not drink with alcohol, will make you drowsy. Now I'm sleep deprived, not thinking right, I got all these mental health issues that I haven't told anybody about, and do not drink with alcohol. Okay, so I took a few extra pills and drank a bottle of scotch. Well, my heart stopped. So I almost died twice now. I wake up in the hospital, and the psychiatrist said, was this a suicide attempt? Hell no. Well, what's going on, son? What's going on? Why, what's going on? Why are you here? I told him I can't sleep. I've got these issues, OCD, which was undiagnosed, so I didn't say OCD. Told him what I did and didn't do. Panic attacks, anxiety, all these things. So for the first time I got diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, mental illness, all these things. And at first I was like, wow, I'm not crazy, I got a diagnosis. Well, that wasn't good because for 2 years, almost 3, I was taking different medications, different doctors, and remember, thank God we have come so far in our diagnoses, our medications, all these things. But at that time, it was a journey. And ultimately, this happened.
Clint Malarchik, you see, was suffering from obsessive-compulsive disorder, a vicious, insidious imbalance of the brain chemistry that few know about, but an illness more common than asthma or diabetes, one which turned this bright, talented, supposedly healthy young man into a quivering mass of confusion and tears. He was finally diagnosed as OCD 13 months ago while tending the Buffalo Sabres goal. They cut him during this past training camp. He was then picked up by the International Hockey League San Diego Gulls, where he fights both the puck and his own demons now. Amazingly, he somehow has managed to balance that horror show for a decade.
Yeah, balance it. I'm not sure. Getting sent to the minors was the end of my NHL career. Devastated. But on the other hand, I really didn't care that much because my mind, I'm not doing good mentally. I just loved hockey and wanted it so bad, but on the other hand, it was like, oh, the stress, the pressures and everything. So ended my career, but it was a blessing in disguise because my first game in the IHL, I'm in the minors, wasn't doing good in the NHL, so I'm in the minors. First game I played, I let in 4 goals on 6 shots. And even for me, that's not good. So I get pulled after the first period and I put a towel over my head. I'm devastated. My personal life, my emotional life, my NHL life, everything is gone. And I cried for the next 2 periods. I just sat there and wept with a towel over my head. I'm just, whatever. So I went into our coach, Rick Dudley, at the end of that period, or end of the game, and I said, Rick, I'm done. I was done. I wasn't done with hockey. I was done with everything. I was done with life, hockey, everything. And Rick is a very, very compassionate guy. And he said, Clint, we'll get you in, we'll get you help. And I'm like, Rick, you don't understand. I've been doing this for 3 years now. What makes you think you can get me to some doctor that's gonna help me? And said, well, Rick, or Clint, we gotta try. So he got me into Dr. Stahl. The blessing in disguise is my NHL days are done, but my mental health is going to be cured. He gets me into Dr. Stahl, the most renowned doctor for OCD and depression, all these things at that time. Dr. Stahl was super cool. Short little guy, arrogant, cocky, and I'd heard this song and dance before, and I told him, and he goes, you're going to be fine. He says, Clint, you've got a chemical imbalance of the brain. No shit, I'm a goalie. Well, he went on to say a diabetic has a chemical imbalance of the pancreas and insulin levels. So different organ, different thing. I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. I'm not crazy. Just a different perspective there. Huh. And I'm walking, he writes me a prescription. He said, Clint, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And I'm like, nah, I've been down this road. But he was so arrogant, cocky, and full confidence that I would be okay. I remember walking out with this prescription looking, I said, wait a minute, Dr. Stahl, you never talked to me about my dad or all that abuse and stuff. Why is he screwed up? Bring his ass in here too, we'll fix him. All right. So week 6 on that medication, I'm driving to Dr. Stahl, I'm in Southern California, playing in the minors, and I went, oh my God, the temperature here, the beautiful Southern California, wow. So that's how deep and dark my depression was, and it had lifted. I go into Dr. Stahl, I said, man, is this what it feels like to be normal? Really? Because I've been missing out on life. I really have been missing out on life. So I at one point I was so happy that I felt good. On the other hand, I thought, wow, what could I have done had I got this diagnosis and cure sooner? Kelly Rudy, a kid I grew up with, NHL goalie, said, Clint, with your skills and talent, which I didn't think I had, would have took you beyond Hall of Fame goaltending. So it was like, dang, I had this curse. I could have been way better in hockey, but now I'm just happy. I'm just happy that I'm happy for the first time in my life, right? Yeah, wow, what a ride that was. They give me medication, Dr. Stahl's medication. I go, I'm doing great. And it was the NHL lockout year. I was with the Florida Panthers, and the lockout, they said, do you want to go to the minors and coach? I said, yeah. Greatest decision I ever made, because I met at the practice rink in San Antonio, I met this gal, her. And don't get cheered too hard, because this was the beginning of another chapter in my mental health decline. Not because of her. So I meet this beautiful girl, and I'm so in love, and we're dating and doing all this fun stuff.
And I set you over the edge.
What's that?
I feel like I set you over the edge.
No, you didn't. It was a mental illness, because I've been on that medication. Now I'm a coach in the NHL. And when you're in a coaching or player team sport like pro sports, you have a prescription. Or you just go to the team doctor. You have a team doctor. I need this, I need this, I need this. They write it, good. So for 15 years, I just took that little pill that was going to make me feel great for the rest of my life. Well, it doesn't work that way all the time. You got to keep in touch with your shrink. And I didn't. And I just kept taking it. So over time, my body was getting immune to the medication. And then things started to, we had a good start, but it got rocky. And Joni had no clue, none, zero. She grew up in the Beaver Cleaver family. She didn't know about addiction. And I'll make it clear right now, with mental illness, there's a huge correlation with addiction, because you feel crappy, nothing's working, have a beer. I'm depressed, I have a couple beers. Oh, I'm happy now, that feels good. Oh, I'm so anxious, God, my stomach is going, okay? A couple beers. But the problem is that 2 beers that would do it, then it's 4 beers. Then it's 8 beers, then it's 10 beers. I was drinking 25 to 30 beers a day just to get, well, I'm Canadian, that was American beer, so cool it on the wows. So Joni meets me. She's got no clue about mental illness or addiction.
And you weren't drinking that much when I first met you.
No, but you drove me over the edge, like you said.
Yeah, I did.
So
Gonna
your
do something,
first,
do it right.
talk about your first.
Well, he told me he had OCD, and he told me, what it was. I mean, knew probably a little bit what it was. I thought it was like the turning on the lights, washing your hands. We later talked about coaching and stuff, and I thought, oh, that's what that is. That kid you look for in skating where you're, oh, that won't be good. That one just keeps doing it over and over and over and over again. So since then, I've kind of looked at skaters differently, like when their mom's sending you those texts, at 10 o'clock at night of them doing jumps in the living room, you're like, let's maybe take a break on that. But he told me, so I understood it. My mom took thyroid pills. I'd moved around my whole life being in the military, so I knew different people and things they had dealt with. I never really saw anything until he takes a trip to Toronto, right?
Yep.
Pay attention. And he checks his bag. I don't think anything of it, but he had put his medication in it. So he gets there and he says, they lost my bags. But I'm sure they'll find them by the time, they'll find him in a day or two. And I said, well, how are you doing? And he says, I'm fine. I had no idea, not taking his medication, what it would look like, sound like on the phone. So he keeps, every day he sounds fine. He's sounding a little anxious, but I didn't know what he was like going, he's visiting hockey players. I had no idea. So the day he's supposed to come home, you've got, 4 flights to get home. He's leaving early in the morning. And I called him up and I said, so I checked your flight's on time, are you at the airport? And he says, no. I said, oh, so are they having you stay or what's going on? He goes, no, I can't leave my room. And I said, thinking, just get up and go. What's the problem? And I still can't wrap my head around it, I guess, not having that. It's just hard to conceive what's going on. And he said, I just can't leave my room. And I said, well, what are you doing right now? And he goes, I'm sitting on the bed like I had been all night. I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me call you back. So switched his flights, got everything ready. And I said, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you put your bags in the hallway? Because they're going to come clean the room. You have to leave the room. So I got him out of the room, and then I'd call the concierge downstairs, and I'd say, hey, there's a cowboy coming downstairs. He's got this color bag. Can you put him in a taxi and send the taxi to the airport? Because I knew once he got in a situation, he'd be fine.
So, Joni, sorry I just interrupt for 1 minute, because it's kind of a sad visual. From about 8 o'clock that night till Joni called me, I sat in my bed in a suit, because we travel in a suit, like this, for hours. So my mental health had degenerated to the point where I can sit for 8 hours on the edge of my bed. I'm coaching a professional hockey team and I can't leave my room. Just rocking for hours.
So I didn't know what to do, so I just kept thinking, well, I'll just take baby steps. So I get him to the airport, I called him. Thank God for cell phones then. I think if it was back when there were no cell phones, I don't know what I would have done. But I called him, I said, where are you at? And he said, I'm at the airport. And I said, okay, well, walk in the door and look at the screen. And I looked at the screen. And I said, what do you see? And he's telling me, and I said, okay, that's where you need to go. Go to that gate. So I'd call him every so many minutes. Got him on the first flight, got him on the second flight, all the flights, never even knowing, is he just not going to answer or is he going to be sitting in the airport? He gets off the plane and comes walking down the ramp with a smile from ear to ear. Hey, how was your day? And I'm thinking, I had a crappy day trying to get you home, and he was literally acting like there was nothing wrong. So that was the first sign that they can totally put it on. When they get in have to be around people that they love or people that they know are going to see something, they can turn it off like that.
Yeah, we're good actors, like I mentioned. I was like Brad Pitt, except better looking. All these actors, we can turn it on and we can turn it off.
So then the next time was, we were engaged and we were moving to Nevada. I had quit my job, I had let my apartment go, and I had told my parents I was leaving after being gone for 20-something years. I moved home and here I am leaving again. And my dad's coming over with the U-Haul to help load everything up. And he starts, in what I'm thinking, just freaking out. And he's sitting there and he's getting all nervous and he's pacing and he says, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to marry me? Are you sure you want to move? And I'm going, you're asking me this now? I just quit my job. I have to be out of the apartment today, so I'm obviously moving home if we're not going to go. And he keeps saying this over and over again. He wouldn't help me get anything ready. My dad walks in the door, and it's gone. He looks at my dad and said, hey, Mr. Goodley, what are we moving first? And I thought, did I really see that? So you start to question yourself, maybe it was me questioning everything, or maybe I'm being oversensitive, or maybe I'm the scared one. So I didn't think anything of it until we got to Nevada, and he just starts acting, things start bothering him a lot. He starts acting different, he's isolating himself. He rodeoed, so we have a roping arena and horses, so his friends that we met in the neighborhood, they'd come over and they'd rope, they'd come over 4 o'clock and then they'd rope all night long, they'd drink, and I thought, just grow up, what are you acting like a kid for? Because at the end of the night roping, he'd come in, and everybody said, oh, he's great, he's doing fine. He'd come in and say, we need to talk. And I'm like, okay, what do we need to talk about? And he'd say, well, why do you love me? And you first you look at him and go, I don't know, you both skate, and you love each other, you're handsome, you're right the thing is, and he goes, sounds like you had to think about that too long, maybe you don't really mean it. And then he'd ask another question, are you sure you love me? Same questions over and over again. And basically he would just get so tired from drinking all day, which I found out later, a lot of this was caused from the drinking. And I had no idea, because for me, looking at somebody drinking, they would be stumbling around, slurring their words, and he wasn't like that. And with everybody else there, they said, oh no, he's great, he's not drunk, he's the life of the party, he's perfect. So after like the 12th night of this happening, every night is like Groundhog Day, I thought, well, this is just ridiculous. I'd sit there and answer questions. I knew what question was coming. I knew how I was going to answer it. I knew the answer I was going to get. And I'd look at my watch. I'd be falling asleep here in about half an hour. So, and then trying to get him in to see doctors, because he didn't want to see anybody. So then I just started calling doctors. I said, this is what he's doing. He's threatening to kill himself. He says he doesn't want to live anymore. He'd wake up in the morning, though, and there'd be about 2 hours where he would be normal. And you'd sit down and try to talk to him and say, how about we get you in to see a doctor? And he'd say, yeah, I think you're right. And then, of course, once those 2 hours were gone and it was noon, it was time he'd start drinking. So then that thought was gone. He wouldn't agree to it. So I started calling doctors, and the answer I was getting was, well, we don't take your insurance. We don't have any time. We can get you in, but we can get you in 3 months. I said, 3 months he's not going to be around. I would go to the pharmacy. I was walking into places. I was calling. We don't have that. We have a small town like here, so there aren't that many. And I was calling him every day. And they basically told me, unless he hurts himself or hurts you, there's nothing we can do. So I remember telling the one lady on the phone, I was probably quite mean to her, and I said, when your help is going to be available to me, I'm not going to need it. Because he doesn't want to hurt himself, and he doesn't want to hurt me. He wants to kill himself. So the next time I call you, he's going to be dead, and I'm not going to need your help.
Yeah, I was getting arrested. I put in a state mental hospital for a 72-hour lockdown. I was a mess. I not only had depression, anxiety, it had grown into paranoia and almost psychotic behavior. I thought the FBI was after me. I thought
the NHL FBI.
The NHL was after me.
NHL
The CIA was after me.
And they were after him.
I mean, anybody important was after me. So I felt, kind of honored that way.
And my parents were a huge support. They just kept saying, you got to keep trying to talk to him, get him into a rehab, get him into something, get him in to see a doctor. Nothing was working, and again, my parents supporting me, saying, if you ever get tired of it, you're welcome home. We'll support you as long as you want to support him, but if you ever get tired of it, I'll come get you and we'll take you home.
So when I was going all through this kind of psychotic and paranoia behavior and everything, Joni's parents knew me and they loved me. And they would always tell Joni, that's not Clint. That's not the Clint we know. He is sick and he needs help. And therefore, she had that support. Otherwise, everything I was doing, an abusive behavior, not physical, but absolutely verbal, I blamed Joni for everything, because who do we blame? If I said the things I said to Joni, to Randy, he'd have punched me in the nose. No, because we feel safe with our loved ones. So moving on, I fell off the horse. My medication's not working, and gradual, self-medicating. And then Richard Zednick cut his jugular vein in the same town, Buffalo, New York. It's a cutthroat town. And so I'm working for the Columbus Blue Jackets at the time, so I'm very media accessible. I'm a coach. And they're coming to me because I was the honorary inductee into the Cutthroat Association. And relive it. Tell us again. Meds aren't working. Reliving the trauma. Oh boy. That's when I really, really started to skid. Because again, we'll get into trauma, and I'm undiagnosed PTSD, and now I'm reliving with the media all this trauma. And yeah, that's where I fell off the horse. And then I sold that son of a... So, we come to this video, and...
well, things have been getting bad for a while. He'd been kind of spiraling out of control for probably a month.
I continued to drink, and one day I shot myself.
There was blood coming out of his nose, and he looked at me and said, "See what you made me do." And at that point, I just had my phone hooked on my hip, and I just called 911.
So I told you how much I blame Joni for everything. But the worst thing is that when you shoot yourself and you don't lose consciousness, and then you blame somebody for see what you made me do, I carried so much guilt, not just over that, but a lot of things, my verbal abuse, my lashing out, my mental anguish, always at Joni. And I felt, and then it was probably 5 years ago, I was speaking at a deal in Canada, and another former hockey player talked about his experience. He was 14 years old the second he walked in the room that his dad did the deed. But what Jesse went on to say was, I knew that wasn't my dad. I knew it was the illness. I'd like to say it left me off the hook, kind of let me off the hook. But there's no excuses for my actions, I guess, except that I realized how sick I was. Because Clint Malarchuk in his right mind would never pull that trigger. Clint Malarchuk in his right mind would never attack her verbally like I did. So it really hit home when he said, I knew that wasn't my dad. I knew it was the illness. Because this mental illness will take us to places that if in a good, healthy state of frame of mind, we would never do. We would never do.
And you know, you think that at that point, that's lowest. You think, okay, now he's going to want help. He's going to welcome it, and he's going to say, okay, something's wrong, I need help. And it was a complete opposite.
Hell no,
It was like, don't call the cops. Don't call anybody. I can fix this, which he'd done. He'd stitched his chin up before. And I'm on the phone to him. He goes, don't tell him. Tell him it was an accident. If you tell him that this was a suicide attempt, I will lose my job in the NHL and I will never get another job and it'll be your fault. So I did. I told him. I said, this is an accident. And we since found out later after meeting the paramedics that they knew. But later on that night, I mean, he didn't even want to get in the ambulance. We had to call friends over to get him in the ambulance. Then he wouldn't get on the care flight to get to the hospital. So once we got him there, I remember one of the local cops that was there called me up and said, we know your husband's history. You know, we've taken him to jail a few times, so we know he's got some mental health history. And the one thing I want to tell you is that you had said this was an accident. Now he's in the hospital having surgery. If you keep it as an accident, as soon as he wakes up and he's coherent because he's an adult, he can walk out of that hospital. But if you put it as a suicide attempt, he now's on suicide watch, and he cannot leave until you and the doctors agree that he's okay. So I thought, great, this is going to give me some time. So I did. I said it was suicide. Didn't even hesitate. So that gave me some time to start calling people. I called the hockey team. I called his brother. I started calling everybody. And since he was employed by the NHL, they jumped in within hours of me calling your brother and the hockey team and said, we're setting him up in a rehab. And then they called the doctors in the hospital. So everything got into play where he wasn't going anywhere. And I remember when your mom came to visit, he and his mom were sitting in the room, and they were saying, well, he really needs to go home, Joni, to see his horses. If he can go home and see his horses, that'll make him feel better. And I remember thinking, hey, if you leave, I'm not getting you back. And they said, don't do it. And I talked to the NHL doctors and the doctors in the hospital, and they said, don't let him leave. So here I am. I have to go in the room and talk to his mom and him, who have gone through this for their whole life. And I thought, I'm just going to say it, they're going to hate me. So I said, you are not leaving this hospital. If you do leave, somebody's picking you up, you're going straight to rehab. No other discussion anymore. And if you hate me for the rest of your life, that's okay, because you'll be alive to hate me.
So that's an x-ray taken by a colleague of mine, a veterinarian. That Gallows Humor Boys, he said, and he was a great friend, helped me through a ton. He says, how's that bullet done? Does it rattle when you shake your head? And then he goes, hey, let's take a picture. He took the picture. And you can see the bullet lodged in my skull. I guess, thank God I was a goalie with a thick skull, because I did not lose consciousness, and
Walked around.
I don't even walk. I don't even like looking at this, because I get emotional, because how grateful am I to be alive, right? You know, God spared me for those that are still struggling. That's what we did all day with Randy, talking to people about, you know, mental wellness, suicides. I mean, we got kids dying at 10 years old now by suicide. And so that's why I say God spared me for a reason. And this is the reason I'm up here. I want to save a life. I want to change a life. You know, help our youth, help our players. So I'm pretty grateful about that. I went through a lot of anger and denial, and again, I can't stress enough how I lashed out and blamed Joni. I was not in a good place. And they send me to a treatment facility after I get out of the hospital, and it was not fun.
That was his view from that nice bush balcony with 3 meals a day.
Yeah. You make it sound like that's great. You got 3 meals a day. Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
I would have loved to have. We think about it. You know, you pay for a spa to go stay in. It's expensive.
No.
Gets 3
All right. It wasn't fun. You thought it was fun because it was a beautiful facility. But my view was Alcatraz. And for the first, I was there 6 months. In the first 2 months, I was the most angry, in denial, son of a gun that you ever want to meet. I was just, because they were saying you got, you know, and I claimed all this. I drank too much. I got mental health issues, depression, anxiety, you know, panic attacks, all these things. No, Clint, you have PTSD. I'm like, what? No, wow, that's a military thing, first responder thing. No. And for 2 months, you got PTSD. Why do I got PTSD? Because you got your jugular vein cut, you came back in 10 days, you were like this rock star. They named a band after you that, by the way, is still in Buffalo 30-some years later, called Malarchuk. I mean, I was a hero. I mean, it was, and I rode that love and adrenaline and support of upstate New York, you know, that got me through the trauma and everything. Was the next season, like I said, that things went downhill. So PTSD, I don't think so. STD maybe, not PTSD.
That's a bad.
But, so after 2 months of this, I read a book, and I love animals. And so I read the chapter about animals. And the story goes, cheetah, antelope. We've all heard of fight and flight. I'd heard of that, but I never heard of freeze. Freeze is like something animals do, and we're animals. We have fight and flight. So cheetah is after the antelope and catches the antelope and drags it to the ditch or the trees, and now I'm going to go get the cubs and come eat. But the thing was, the antelope went into freeze, froze, fooled the cheetah. So the important part is how an animal processes trauma. And we are animals, and we don't do this. We push through, we tough through. That's how our society is. Don't cry. Don't cry in public. I remember as a little boy, if I cried, my dad would go, I'll give you something to cry about. So what's the lesson there? You don't cry. And that's not good. It's not healthy, because we learn not to process trauma. So the antelope gets up, process trauma, stands up, it's in total shock, coming out of that freeze, shakes one limb, shakes the other limb, shakes all 4 limbs, and then shakes its whole body violently. This is all documented on National Geographic. And boing, 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 it's gone. The cheetah comes back. Where the hell did that antelope go? Honest, kids, I had dinner and it's gone. So it's funny how things work. So a few days later, I'm really processing this because for 2 months, I've been in total denial about this PTSD thing. So Joni's coming from Nevada.
I'm driving over the mountain.
Over the mountains, gets in a little fender bender.
I'll tell that story.
Oh,
Because you make it sound worse than it was.
I
It was a
hope you
little
tell it
fender
right.
bender. It was icy. You know, you guys know me. I was always in a fender bender somewhere. They called me crash dummy for a while. little fender bender. You didn't know that. Get out. Cops come. Cars were fine. Cars ran. Nobody was hurt and everything. It was just a little ice bumping into each other. But I had to call him because I was supposed to be there at a certain time and I was going to be late. So I said, hey, it was a little fender bender. And I called them after I got back on the road. So I talked to the cops and I get back in the car and I'm thinking, oh, I did that. And then I start shaking. You know how you afterwards you get that shake, my whole body's shaking, I'm crying, and I'm like, oh, I gotta call Clint. And I thought, I'm calling Clint, and I get him on the phone, and I said, I did so good. I said, I talked to the cops, nobody saw me cry. I handled it well, I got everybody's information, but then I got in the car, and I started shaking and crying. And then he just kind of goes off the deep end, and all I'm thinking is, what did I say? This is my thing now.
No, I was like, the animal shaking and then crying. Oh my God, you're the cheetah, you're the animal. And he goes, you're on medication, right? Because I'm like jacked. I got PTSD, I accept it, 100%. And she's like, oh, you not taking meds or what? But
Here we go again. Something happens to me and it becomes about him. Totally kidding.
I'm not listening. So that became a part of our education to heal, to recover. Joni had to go to rehab. Oh boy, that wasn't good.
Yeah, they said, we want to send you to rehab. And I was like, I remember calling my mom. I said, Mom, they want to send me to rehab.
I don't
So
even drink.
I don't, why do they want to send me to rehab? I was mad. Why do I have to go away and leave my stuff for something, he did? And my mom said, hey, go. She says, did you read what it was? I'm like, no, I heard rehab. She said, it's family week. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it's family. It's families of people who are struggling, have a loved one who is struggling. So I thought, oh, okay, great, I'll go. So I went, and I couldn't have my phone the whole time there either. They take your phone, so I thought, oh, I can get a break from talking and going through this. So the very first day we're there, we're sitting in a room, and everybody's sitting in a circle, and we had to go through what our loved one is dealing with and the things that they say to you. So everybody, they actually asked me to go first, and I was like, no, I don't want to go first. So I ended up last. So I'm listening to everybody go, and everything they're saying, how their loved one acts, and the things they say, I'm like, wow, that's Clint. Clint says that. And I'm thinking, I'm starting to get mad. I'm like, I'm taking all this stuff so personally, and it is exactly the same. I mean, almost word for word. It's almost like they had a book. And on, January 9th, this is how we're going to treat our loved ones, and this is what we're going to say. So I thought, God, you're not even original. You couldn't even come up with something. And here I am taking it so personally, and it's the same as this person who lives across the, in Washington. I thought, this is not right. So that's when I kind of accepted that this is not me. It had nothing to do with me. It's you. You can say whatever you want to me. And I used to be worried when I would go see him that when I left, he'd yell things at me and tell me it's your fault, you need to get me out of here. And after going to that family week, I remember going to see him, and he was not being really nice. And the counselor said, you can leave whenever you want. And I said, I will. And there was this cute little place I'd stop by before I hit the mountains that had the greatest apple pie. So my mom always said, stop and treat yourself. And I knew what time it closed, so I thought, well, I better go. So I told him, I said, I'm going to go. I said, I need to get home. I like to stop at my place. And I said, sorry, you're having a bad day, but I'm leaving. And it was the very first time that I was able to look at him and just say, good luck. You got people to talk to. And honestly, I didn't feel bad, and I didn't feel responsible, and I didn't feel like if I left, anything was going to happen, because I knew then that he was in good hands. And I left. I got in my car, and halfway through the parking lot, he comes running down, knocking on the window. Are you coming back? I'm like, yeah, I'm coming back, but I gotta go.
So the education that she learned, all that that stuff that she took personal, that now she was like, oh my God, he's just sick. He's really sick, and he didn't mean it. And you know, she just got, you know, kind of educated.
Educated on it, and I don't even think he remembered half the stuff.
And then
he
we
said.
obviously recovering, and then we had to go to therapy, individual, both her and I, and marriage, because I'd done so much damage in the marriage. So, but we did the work, and here we are. I landed on my feet. Then I sold that damn horse. So today, you know, for me, and Joni does some of this, but not all of it, but she doesn't need to because she's not the one that struggles mightily like I do. I take my medication, and I do check in with my doctor. I don't go 15 years for check-ins and wait for that meds not to work. I meditate, mindfulness, being in the moment, and that's so important for me because if I start future tripping or looking in the past, I'm going to feel anxious or depressed, depending on which part I'm looking at. And so I try to stay in the moment on that mindfulness. Working out, well, that's pretty obvious. I don't have to talk about that. It works. Some days I wake up and I'm anxious or depressed, or I can't even tell which one is which. And I got a gym inside my barn, and if I just get out there and just get that blood moving and everything, I roll pretty good through the day. I do meditation before I even get out of bed. So those two things are very important. Counseling, my mind is like a bad neighborhood, so I don't go there alone. I talk to my counselor or Joni or a friend, somebody I can trust that knows what I'm talking about. And they're not hard to find because you'd be surprised how many people can relate to our struggles or my struggles. And of course, being a service is absolutely everything. It keeps me going, it keeps me motivated. People that read my book and email me and I'm like, I'm your twin or whatever it might be. People that come up after a speech and say, oh my God, I'm you, but I need help. I'm going to get help now because of you or us. That's very, very gratifying and motivating to keep me rolling. The Crazy Game, the book I wrote, I don't put it up here to promote it, but if you haven't bought it, you should.
And that's the Canadian title. The U.S. title is...
Yeah, U.S. title is A Matter of
Matter
Inches.
of Inches.
And, you know, two different publishers. So, yeah, I was like, wow, I wrote the book to help people, but I was getting all these emails and going, oh my God, there's a lot of Clint Malarchuks out there. We always think we're the only one, and then we accept that there's other people like us that struggle, and then we go, but they're not as sick as me. I'm really screwed up. Wow, I've learned, and you know, the book, yeah, I played in the NHL. This is my greatest accomplishment, and I'll tell you why, because of the feedback. It taught me purpose. I always thought my purpose was to be an NHL hockey player. And I got that. And even at the NHL, I was not happy because I was dealing with depression and anxiety. And going, God, I got the world by the tail. Why do you give me all this other stuff? Well, I had to go there. I had to suffer and question God all the time why he cursed me with this debilitating disease. But he also gave me the NHL. Today I know my purpose. He gave me the NHL because it gives me a bit of a platform. But to talk to people that truly struggle today is my purpose. Mark Twain wrote, the two most important days of your life is the day you were born and the day you realize why you were born. No, I wasn't born to be a hockey player. It was part of my journey, or a hockey coach, part of my journey. But it's all part of my purpose today to talk to people about suffering and what we go through. And, you know, I don't want to ruin the ending of the book in case you do get it, but I do live. But yeah, it was so eye-opening that I can barely read. Really, I was not a great student. I can barely read, yet I wrote a book.
That's why it's on Kindle too, so you can hear it.
Okay. Everybody's fighting a battle you know nothing about. Buffalo has been fighting a battle for a year of trauma, distress, remorse, grieving. And some people would never know that. If I met you on an airplane, I wouldn't know anything about what you were going through. But, you know, we're all fighting, so be kind to each other. It's important because we're all fighting something. And on a good day, I think I got the world by the tail. And then the next day, I might be suffering with anxiety or depression. And no one will know it, but we all struggle. Ace it, I love this. It's a formula that you can use for anything, relationship, work, or anything. And I like this so much that when I retired from Las Vegas in the minor leagues, they gave me a high-dollar rope horse as a retirement gift, and I named him Ace. So ace it, accept it. True acceptance, you got a problem. True acceptance is like I had to do with my PTSD that I denied for 20 years and then plus 2 years in treatment where they were telling me I had PTSD. So true acceptance, or you got to change it or eliminate it. Now that's hard. To change something as a supervisor, as a boss, you might have to have that little confrontation with a underachieving employee or a lazy employee. And then if it doesn't work, it gets even tougher because you got to make a decision. You got to punt them, or, you know, so you get that change and eliminate it. It's hard. But if we don't do this formula, we're going to be stuck with that same thing over and over. They'll turn around. They'll turn around. So whether it's relationships, communication is important. You know, to be able to talk, you have to change. I got to talk to this person, or you got to eliminate the problem. If I was a mayor, I'd use that formula. Okay, do the next right thing. So we touched a little bit on my childhood and that kind of really bad way of thinking. If I had a good game, I was a good kid. If I had a bad game, I was a bad kid. Very sick, very wrong. So I grew up, my default mode when I make a mistake is to go into guilt and shame. How many people can relate to that? You make a mistake, guilt and shame. Oh, we had two hands. Okay. So really, we do that. And I really did it because that's how I grew up. So when I make a mistake now, can I learn from it? Okay. But I got to watch Clint Malarchuk, not getting sucked into that guilt and shame. So I'll walk around going, do the next right thing, do the next right thing, do the next right thing, because my default mode is guilt and shame. So I want to do the next right thing. It's a good little saying that I use.
Well, and I think when you play sports too, you learn, if you mess up, what do? Get up, do the next right thing. So I think you learn it in sports and you learn it in the rest of your life.
Yeah.
We just don't always learn how to do it in our personal life. That's it.
Next slide. This is you.
Oh, this is the one I love. Sorry. Because I mean,
she likes this one.
So I can sense this even when he's on a road trip. If he's hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, which usually happens to be all of them, especially when he's traveling. And then he starts to obsess and kind of spiral, and you can just hear him on the phone, and especially you can see him. He just gets antsy and he starts moving around. So if anybody out there is struggling with anything, just remember HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If any of those things are going, stop, get some food, call somebody, take a nap, meditate.
Yep, so I got to be conscious of that, and usually she's the first one to say, Clint, have you eaten? You're overtired, you've been traveling. So, you know, it's a good little formula to watch. The giving advice, you know, we don't give advice. I have a lot of people that I support. We can tell what worked for us and what didn't work for us, but we give of ourselves. We don't know what to say if you've got a teammate that's struggling. You might not know what to say. But you can say, hey, brother, I'm there for you. It's support, right? Teammates, right? That's what it's all about, helping each other and not being afraid to say, oh, man, me too. And I'm not talking mental illness, I'm talking about life, emotional distress, COVID stuff, that people are experiencing more anxiety, more fear, more depression, more like suicides and overdose. I mean, it's getting bad. So we have to be there for each other and be supportive. So give of yourself. And on COVID, you know, we missed the structure. It's getting better. And the purpose, you know, we're losing all these things. And for me, the COVID has been that damn insomnia. I struggle with insomnia. I'll sleep maybe 2 nights for 2 hours for 3 nights in a row, and then I'll crash or whatever. It all affects us in different ways. And we go, what happened to me? Well, it's just damn COVID, you know? So we got to talk about it and be there for each other. There's Stella. I hate even looking at this picture because we just lost her recently. Yeah, we raised her as a little orphan goat, you know, bottle fed her, and she was just like a little lap dog. And, you know, 10 years ago, you'd never see me loving on a goat, you know, especially with Velcro gloves.
That's not funny.
Some people get that joke. But yeah, it's therapeutic. So I used to, you know, go in there and I'm not feeling real good, and she'd come up and she'd start licking me and try to sit on my lap, and, you know, so whatever works. All these different things. I have no embarrassment now to say, yeah, if I need to go hang out with Stella, not the counselor, not the shrink, but Stella. Animals are therapeutic to me, and I love them. I love them. I've got a little emotional support dog, and we'll talk I don't know what time we got, real quick on the meditation part. So Joni's old school, and I got into meditation, you know, mindfulness. We talked about visualization, guys, right? And so Joni was like, I can't get my mind still or whatever. So she takes my emotional support dog, and she gets on her bike. And one of my meditative deals is in front of my barn. I had this patch of grass, and I'd water it and watch the water come out and just calm down, feel the temperature.
So the grass is dead. You must not be meditating.
Okay. All right, too much information. All right, so then Joni comes out, and she's got my little emotional support dog, puts it in her basket. She looks like Dorothy on the Wizard of Oz, and goes for a ride. And she puts her earbuds in and listens to nice music. She comes back one day, and I went, hey, Joni, how was your meditation? She goes, what? I don't meditate. What are you talking about? I said, no, that is your form of decompressing and feeling good and maybe thinking. And
yeah,
you know.
It's my dog. And he kind of demands it, so it's more or less for him, I think. But it is. It's nice. It's get your head in the right space, get you away from everything, listen to the radio.
So that was our wedding picture. We're overlooking a Lake Tahoe, and we're on a cliff. Now, no shit, Joni's my 4th wife, so I thought the cliff might be good. You know?
He would have gotten.
But I always show this, even when I'm speaking on my own. I always acknowledge my dear Joni, who went through hell and back. And I stress the back because we are back together. Yeah, I'd put her on my hockey team any day. She'd be the enforcer.
Wouldn't score any goals.
I had this procedure done. It was painless. It's called a myectomy. And what they do is they sever the nerve that runs from your eyeball to your butthole. And, well, then you don't have a shitty outlook on life. You like that, didn't you? Remember, it's a painless procedure. So some of the things we talked about and some of the sayings and how we live healthy and keep our balance, we've shared with you, but there's a whole bunch that we can't. It's way too long. So we have a video that shows a lot of these sayings that we try to live by. And this is filmed out on our ranch and thereabouts area in northern Nevada. And enjoy this, please. Thank you so much. That was very kind. Guys, would we learn anything? One thing. Come on, tell me, boys. You're the team. What do we do as a team? Support each other. Trust each other. Look out for each other, right? If I can cry, you can cry. Right? You got your buddy there. Say, it's okay. I get it. You know, that's a team. That's love. That's support. And that's what we do. Right? I want to... people forget a lot of what you say, but they do remember how you made them feel. And I hope Joni and I have made you feel, especially at this anniversary, motivated, inspired to love each other, help each other. Randy, I love you, brother. Thank you. Honorable Mayor, it's an honor that you're here. So, let's keep going forward and be Buffalo strong. Thank you.
Questions?
We're going to do a little question and answer here. Hope I got the answer.
Everybody just stand up, speak up. What do you want to know?
I have a question. Joni, did you ever want to just give up?
Oh, I'm sure.
Did I ever want to just give up? Every day. I think you look at your life and say, how did I get here? How come this is my life, But you just get through the day, you know, and then you have those moments where, oh, it's getting better. Oh, I'm on the right track. But yeah, I think you just want to give up every day.
That's why we call it one day at a time. You know, if we can get through that day. No. Question? Anywhere? Okay, I guess we did a great job.
After that, Clint, now you understand why I call her Angel.
Yeah, yeah.
She has been a doggone good angel for you.
Well, I know, and I appreciate that. Now, how Joni and I got speaking together, kind of quick story, is I was coaching with the Calgary Flames, and they asked me to do a corporate speech, and Joni flew up from Calgary, to Calgary from our place in Nevada, and a lot of the Flames staff and players came, and I was speaking with a leading psychiatrist of Canada. And he's the clinical talk, and I'm kind of the story. And we think we got this nailed. I mean, we got it all covered until Q&A. And me and this doctor, all right, we nailed this sucker. We're bumping under the table. First question, yeah, what do you got? This is for your wife, Joni, who I had introduced and acknowledged before the talk. Oh, okay. Yeah, good job, Joni. Right. Second question. Yeah, this is for your wife, Joni. Jesus. Really? Me and the doctor are looking at each other. All right, yeah. Third question. We had 5 questions here, all for Joni. That got me thinking. There's a lot of people can relate to me and my mental illness, but there's a whole lot more that can relate to her living with somebody with mental illness. And that's how we got speaking together. Is I thought it's important that people hear the other side that they can relate to. Question, there ahead.
What a celebration of difficult choices well made.
Never heard that before.
Yeah,
Difficult
he said
choices
it's a
well
celebration. What a celebration of difficult choices that we have made. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. That's not a question, though.
It's so cool. It's so cool to see this.
Well, it gives us hope, right?
Well done.
Thank you. It gives us hope.
Yeah.
You know, to hear what we went through, the people that are struggling or know that somebody is struggling, there is hope. And I remember, I'm the guy that was in such a deep and dark place that I shot myself. You don't get any south more than that. And we made it. We came back from a lot.
Clint, how do you get past thinking I'm on medication? Did that stigma, did it take a long time for you to get past I have to be on this medication?
No, once I got the right medication, I was like, oh my God, is this what it feels like? Because my brain imbalance, my chemical imbalance was now normal. And I was like, oh my God, I missed all these years of my life. Just struggling and suicidal and depressed and anxious. So that was a godsend. And people that are anti-medication and that, and I understand that, I'm on very, very little medication now. Mostly to sleep. It doesn't help a goddamn bit. But.
I think learning too that, like my mom had her thyroid taken out, so she always had to take a thyroid pill. So I think learning more about people, how there are people out there that just have to take medication because their body just doesn't produce enough, and they're not necessarily mentally ill, but it is, you know, your brain's an organ in your body. So I know you've come to terms with that a lot better after hearing a lot of people on that.
Yeah. Like if you're diabetic, do you feel guilty about taking medication? No. You have to if you want to live. I take medication because I don't like the alternative. The alternative is not pretty, as you heard and saw. So I have no shame in taking medication. And over time, I'm down to very little. And, you know, so medication doesn't have to be, I thought the rest of my life I got to do this. I might get totally off medication, just to use my total skills of meditation, you know, working out, counseling, whatever I have to do to keep my balance. But I was on a lot of medication. at first. In fact, that's what led up to the suicide attempt, really. I was over-medicated.
Way over-medicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier, Clint, about taking a medication for this.
Oh, I was taking medication to wake up, to sleep.
Which one it was that worked for you?
Oh, that, and yeah, the meds that back then you'd have to go 6 to 8 weeks on an antidepressant or some kind of medication. After 8 weeks, if it worked, it doesn't work. Oh, we got to do another medication for 6 to 8 weeks. So you got this hope, and then boom, it didn't work. And that was almost 3 years of different. Now our medications are better. They work quicker, and there's more therapy, counseling, education, and the meds are diagnosed and work quicker. Not as quick as we'd like yet, but yeah, great question. Yes, sir.
Clint, what would be your advice for somebody that maybe needs some help but is hesitant to get it? How would you push them to make sure they ask somebody?
Relatability. If they're coming to you and saying, I've got this, or this, anxiety, whatever it might be, for me it's really easy because I can say, oh, me too. You, anxiety? Oh, me too. Depression? Oh yeah. OCD? Oh yeah, I got that. PTSD? Oh, I got that one too. I got it covered, man. Oh, you self-medicating? Yeah, I did that. You know, so for me it's very easy to go, and because I'm kind of well known in my book and everything, people know my story, but it's very easy for me. For you, it might not be easy.
So what advice would you give somebody to make it easier to reach out?
I can't give advice, and neither can you. We can give support and guidance and say, hey, listen, pal, listen, sis. This sounds like we need to get some professional help.
Well, and what we've heard too, people that can't, like I can't really relate to people, but that like his friends will call him up and say, hey, a friend of mine's struggling and I didn't really know what to tell him, so I gave him your book. Or I told him to get your book. Or they'll call him up and say, hey, would you mind talking to this guy? He's not doing really well. I'd want to get him into help, and I don't think he will, but I think if he talks to you, he might be willing to get help. So recommend him read something.
Yeah.
I say call Clint up.
That's kind of, you know what, that's really good advice because you put it really well, that you might not know the answer, but I got a friend. This guy's been down this road. Why don't you call him? His name's Clint or Joe. And, you know, then I can kind of be the one to say, hell, you know, I've been there. Hell yeah. And let's go talk to a professional. You know, I don't know your story. I don't know if you can relate to depression, anxiety, mental illness on any level, but I bet you do know somebody that does. And you can kind of bring that guy in or gal into your circle and you know, work together.
Because I know they have to want it. They have to want it too. Because you can push them into getting help. I mean, that's when you hear the person's been into rehab 8 times.
But the problem, Joni, with that is a lot of times we don't want it because we are afraid. I was so afraid of being committed. So when Joni finally did get a doctor or a psychiatrist that I could see, I was like, oh my God, they're going to lock me up again. and you know, so it's kind of like it's a slippery road, right? And one guy in one of our meetings today said, what did he say? You got to hit the iron when it's hot.
Yep.
You know, you got to when they're vulnerable and breaking down, because that's when you got to move and get them that call or that help. Because if you wait till the next day, they're going to be back up. Oh, I got this. I'm good. You know, so it's kind of like they're good, and then they crash. You got to get them on the crash. It's like getting an alcoholic into rehab or into a meeting. You know, you got to get them when they're hurting. You got to get them when they're down. So it sounds like a great task, but if it's a good friend or somebody you're around a lot, it's not that hard because you can see it.
Questions?
Yep. Who had a question? You hear that?
Knowing everything you know now, is there anything you would change?
Oh yeah, I wish I lived. Everybody says I was born 100 years too late.
Yeah, he would have lived in 1883.
Yeah.
I think.
But
I
on
thought
the
you
other
said
hand,
how
I would
stop
like
that
to
goal
live.
weight
I'd like to
resting.
live now compared to where I was in 1989, because we've come so far with our therapies, medications. So what would I have changed? I don't know. I was so sick and paranoid and psychotic. I don't remember half the things that were going on that throwing me in a state hospital. I barely remember that stuff. I just know I was really, really sick. I just think that now we are in a better place, much better. We have a long ways to go, and we still have to keep the stigma. The stigma kills me. I hate it. And again, it's better. But you talk about mental illness and people, if you got cancer, you go to your boss, oh man, I got diagnosed. I think I'm going to be okay. The boss is going to be, oh, okay, what can we do? Take time off, whatever you need, or work at home, do what you want. You got mental illness, it's really hard to go into the boss and say, look, I've been diagnosed with depression, or because it's like a red flag in society, and we got to get over that.
There's a question way up there.
Yeah.
Your faith.
My faith?
Step to your faith.
Faith.
F-A-I-T-H.
Not face, it's ugly. Faith, yeah. I think I talked a little bit about that. I've always been pretty spiritual, because when you suffer as a child and you're being abused as a child, what do you have? You have nothing. You sit in your room and you cry. And who do you cry out to? Higher power, some sort, God. And yeah, faith is, yeah, and there's times I said that I cursed God, because why did you give me this disability? Debilitating. And playing in the NHL, I'm not happy. A lot of things, but I've always had a firm faith in God. I'm a Christian, and always have been. I don't know why, but it sunk in early, and I think it was a lot because when you suffer, you need something to turn to. Because this disease is bigger than me. And so I needed something bigger than the disease, and that was God. Yes?
Like, you know, when you were talking about your mother, you were talking about it. Was she an enabler to you? Do you think? Did she cover for you and enable you because you said, was it this?
See, this is really hard for me to answer because my mom was my biggest supporter. She was everything. I look back now and go, yeah, she definitely enabled me, but she did the best she could. I mean, when Dad left, we had nothing. To buy my hockey equipment, my skates, and all that, I had to collect pop bottles. I mean, this sounds like an old, sad story, but it's true. We had no money, zero. Mom's got to go back in the workforce. It was just me and her. My brother and sister were older. They had already left home. And so we developed a bond where I was her emotional support. And she was, obviously, as my mother, mine. But she leaned on me in a very unhealthy way. I was all she had, and I was just a kid. I learned this way later in counseling. It was like emotional wrong that I became almost like the husband role. You know, I'm supporting her, but it's all we had. And I make no apologies for it because that's what we were with. We had no money. I had to collect pop cans, pop bottles, beer bottles, everything I can just to get a pair of skates. And the community knew our family was very poor. And there was help there too.
I don't think she didn't know she was enabling. She was just doing, because we've since
It was survival.
Yeah. It was what?
Survival.
Yeah, she was just getting by every day. So we've talked to her since, and she was like, yeah, we didn't know that's what it was. So, but I think, yeah, when she came around, when he was there, I wouldn't have known it either. If I would have probably let him out of the hospital to go home if I hadn't had the NHL on one line and the doctors on the other line saying, don't do that. So, she had a question.
Yes.
When you look back on
Mm-hmm.
and his abusive behavior
Yeah.
and his abandonment of the family. I'm kind of thinking he was struggling with mental.
Okay, I knew this was going right there, and I just wanted you to finish. The question is my dad's behavior, his alcoholism, and everything. We just thought he was an alcoholic and a drunk and got abusive. I look back now and I go, you know what? This is kind of genetic thing too. And now we're going back another generation. It wasn't great when I was growing up. Now we're going back even further when he, and I definitely think he was mentally ill. And what did mentally ill people do back then? They self-medicated. There was no our mental health professionals here probably going, because now we've come so far. And I look back, my brother and my sister never forgave him for his behavior. And I did. I remember him, we reconnected after 12 years, and I said, Dad, come on down, visit me, I'll buy you a plane ticket. And he got off that plane, and back we were brought up to dress in suit and tie on an airplane, and he got off and it looked like an old thrift store suit. His teeth were missing, and and he always begged of my forgiveness. I said, Dad, I forgave you a long time ago. I understand it. I understood the alcoholism, but I also had an inkling that he struggled with everything that I struggled with. And obviously they didn't have the mental health resources to get those people to help, and that's why I think we had a lot of homeless people back then. He was basically homeless. Yeah, that's a great question. And that's one I had to ponder quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say we probably have time for one more question.
Okay, no more. But listen, folks, I'm going to be signing books out there. I'm not trying to make a buck because all the money is going to our foundation here for Buffalo Strong. So I'm proud of the book. I want people to have it. I want them to read it and that, but I'm not promoting it for that. I'm promoting it for the funds that we're Buffalo Strong.
Clint, Joni, thank you guys very much.
You bet.
I was just awestruck when I walked out of the PAC Center. When I started this deal, I thought, you know what, if we can get a few people, it'll be great. Clint said, you know what, normally I have 15 or 20 people out here, so I wasn't too nervous. When I stepped out in the PAC Center there and I looked out, and the hallways were full. It was full out there. I know Terry did say thank you to the sponsors, and I did go out and talk to a lot of those. I felt so strongly about this gentleman and his message that it was easy for me. And this is just a start for us. I know it was a year ago, but this is a start for us for the healing. And now I want to turn it over to the number one person here, Miss Danny.
I'm just here to kill time so you guys can get out and get out to your table.
All right.
We're going to have the book signing out at the Buffalo Strong table out there. So go out and they'll have a donation box out there, and anything you'd want to put in there for that, please do so. If this event here tonight moved you, feel free to reach out to Buffalo Strong. I would love for this to go on for many years. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Danny. Let her tell us what she's planning.
If you guys want to just hang out for one quick minute while we let Clint and Joni get out to the table to do their book signing. I just want to thank all of you for being here. And, Buffalo Strong started out as a response to help those 22 individuals who survived an awful tragedy that day. And I have been so amazed by their courage and their strength and their resilience and the example that they set for each and every one of us. And I know that they're dealing with a lot of the same struggles that we've heard about tonight as a result of what they went through. And I just want to thank the community for the way you have all showed up, because I built a website just to give people an idea of what they could do to help, and people just poured out of the woodwork. with their heart and their time and their talents to build up our community. And we have something really special here. So before you leave tonight, I just want to encourage you and help you realize that you are somebody's miracle. And you are here to learn what Clint and Joni shared with us, because there's somebody in your life who needs you to be their 2 a.m. friend. So I just want you to find that person and think about the person in your neighborhood that maybe doesn't talk a lot, or the person in your family that makes you feel a little nervous because you're not sure how they're going to behave, or the person you see at the store that maybe doesn't seem to have a lot of friends, but you keep running into them. And think about that person and connect. And when you meet them, offer your compassion. And please allow us as Buffalo Strong to be a resource for you. We are trying to bring together all of the mental health and community resources to make sure that no one in our community falls through the cracks again. And before you leave tonight, I just want you to know that Buffalo Strong is now yours. We became a foundation because of the outpouring of the community, and now we want to take direction from you. So please do reach out. There is contact information on the website, and if you have an idea of a way to help strengthen our community, to help reach people in need, please reach out, because we want to be a community foundation. So with that, thank you for being here, and I hope you will remain Buffalo Strong with us.